What's up guys, welcome back to Toon Duelists. Today we show you our Ancient Gear deck profile. Now I'm really excited for this one because everyone remembers Dr. Crowler from the GX anime and the awesome duels he had with the Ancient Gear cards. Really awesome deck, and with the new support from Legacy of Destruction, you might even have to consider meeting some of them at your next tournament, because this deck really got more consistent with the new cards. And without further ado, let's dive right into it. Alright, let's start with the monsters, and the first monster we talk about is Ancient Gear Wyvern. Now this card is a real classic in the Ancient Gear decks. A generic searcher, because if this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Ancient Gear card from a deck to your hand except Wyvern itself, and you cannot set cards for the rest of this turn. Now that part is important, you definitely have to remember that, and you can only use the effect of Ancient Gear Wyvern once per turn. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate monster effects until the end of the damage step. What can I say? Generic searcher, definite 3-off, awesome card. Next up is our Ancient Gear Frame, which we also run 3 copies of. Now I've seen profiles that don't run him at all or only 1 or 2, but I think this card is really great because you can discard 1 card and add 1 Ancient Gear Golem or 1 spell trap that specifically lists the card Ancient Gear Golem in its text from a deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn, and if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. In my opinion, still a great card and a definite 3-off. Then of course, we run 1 Ancient Gear Box. This card we only need once because we want to search it out of our deck to then get its effect, because if this card is added from the deck or graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add 1 Earth Machine type monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand, except Ancient Gearbox, and you can only use this effect once per turn. Awesome card that can search out various cards. For example, one of the new cards we got with Legacy of Destruction, which is our Ancient Gear Commander. Now this card is really awesome and a good 2-off in the deck, because you can send 1 Ancient Gear Golem from your hand, deck or face-up monster zone to the graveyard, and immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 Ancient Gear monster. So basically gives us an additional normal summon, which is insane. If you normal or special summon Ancient Gear Golem, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear Golem from your hand or graveyard, ignoring its summoning condition. Now this is especially great because we already have the Golem in our grave because we used the first effect of Commander. You can also banish this card from your graveyard and place 1 Ancient Gear continuous trap from your hand face up on your field, which is also insane because of the new trap we got that lets us fusion summon right away. Now this card is really important in all the combos, but you can search it out very good, which is why we only run 2. But a great card for this deck. Next up, we run 3 brand new cards. Our Ancient Gear Tanker. This card has the effect that if it's normal or special summoned, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand except Ancient Gear Tanker, ignoring its summoning conditions. Or if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon from your graveyard instead. So a great extender, and this is a going second build, so even better for us. Also, you can target 1 face-up card you control, destroy it, and also for the rest of this turn, all monsters you control that are Ancient Gear Golem or mention it gain 600 attack. Now of course, the attack raise is neat, but the best effect is the pop your own spell or trap, because we have so many spells and traps that can make great use of this. This card is really great and gets your combos forward. Really good card. And next up is a very awesome brand new card, which is Ancient Gear Dark Golem. This card is really insane. This card's name becomes Ancient Gear Golem while on the field or in the graveyard, and if it's normal or special summoned, you can add up to 2 cards, which have to be Ancient Gear cards or Gear Town, from your deck to your hand except Ancient Gear Dark Golem, then discard 1 card. Also, you cannot set cards for the rest of this turn. So it basically searches you 2 cards for your combos, which is insane. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Dark Golem once per turn, and if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. This card is really great, it does it all. It's treated as Ancient Gear Golem, which is very important for all our fusion plays, and it searches us 2 spell or traps, or cards actually, which is just nuts. Next up, we also run one good old Ancient Gear Golem. Now, I guess you all know this card. It can be special summon, and if it attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or traps, and it has piercing battle damage. Great card, we only use it for our commander. Next up, we also, of course, run two Therion King Regulus. Of course, in every machine deck, basically, you run King Regulus, because you can target one machine monster in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, equip that monster to this card, so basically a free special summon. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can send one Therion monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard and negate that effect. It's basically a free Omni Negate on the board and a good body with 2/8 attack. Really great card in every machine deck and also in Ancient Gear. And finally is a card that I just really love in this deck and I keep holding on, like always played this in Ancient Gear, is one Magical Hound. Now this card is also an Earth Machine type monster, so fits perfectly. A tuner also, and if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target one face-up spell trap your opponent controls, return it to the hand, and if you do, special summon this card. So it can special summon itself since it's a going second deck. We can also like bounce one spell trap of our opponent, which is great, and it opens this little door to a little synchro play. I just really like this card in this deck. Of course, if you don't want to play it, you can play 3 Regulus, which would also be great. But I just keep holding on to my Magical Hound. I really love this card. Guys, that's it with the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. So for the spells, we start things off with the brand new Ancient Gear Advance. And look at this beautiful artwork. Really awesome card, and not only beautiful but also powerful, because if this card is activated, add one Ancient Gear spell trap from your deck to your hand, except Ancient Gear Advance, and once per turn you can tribute one monster, draw a card and apply this effect for the rest of this turn. Even if this card leaves the field, you can normal summon Ancient Gear Golem or level 5 or higher monsters that mention it without tributing. You cannot set cards a turn you activate this card, and you can only activate one Ancient Gear Advance once per turn. Now this is the third card that prevents us from setting cards, but it doesn't matter because the other effects are so good. It gives us a search, it lets us draw a card, and enables us to normal summon our Ancient Gear Dark Golem for another search, which is just great. This card is heart and soul of every combo you run in this deck. Really awesome card and definite 3-off. The next 3-off rerun is of course good old Gear Town. Also beautiful card, and definitely one we already know from Ancient Gear decks. This field spell lets both players normal summon Ancient Gear monsters for one less tribute, but the important effect is that when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck or graveyard. So awesome extender. We already talked about some cards that can pop your own spell or traps. Insane card, easy searchable, definite 3-off, great card in this deck. Next up is a definite 3-off in this deck, which is Ancient Gear Fortress. I really wish I owned this card, but it's still too pricey for me. This permanent spell has the effect that during the turn they were normal or special summoned, your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is a pretty good protection. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Ancient Gear cards and effects, which is also pretty great. And if this card is destroyed in the spell and trap zone, you can special summon one Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the rest of this turn, except Ancient Gear monsters. So it's also a great extender. It's basically a really big defense. This card is really great, and I pray for it to get a reprint. Next up is also a very powerful card and definite 3-off, which is Ancient Gear Catapult. Now this card is also very important for all your combos, because while you control no monsters, you can target one face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon one Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. This card is really great, of course. You can also banish this card from your graveyard and then target one face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon one Ancient Gear token, which is also great to like pop a Gear Town afterwards or a Fortress. So really great card. but you can only use one Ancient Gear Catapult effect per turn and only use it once that turn. Very great card and definite 3-off. And next up is the fusion spell of the deck, which is Ancient Gear Fusion. Now, I've seen builds that only run one copy of this card. I think 2 are totally fine, because this card lets you fusion summon one Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And if you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound you control as material, you can also use monsters from your deck, which is just insane. So that's it with the Ancient Gear spells. Let's talk about some other cards. And the first one we talk about is Urgent Schedule. We run 2 copies of this card, and it seems like it was made for Ancient Gear, because if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you special summon 1 level 4 or lower and 1 level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck in defense position, but negate their effects. You can only declare attacks the turn you activate this card, except with machine monsters. If this set card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 10 machine monster from your deck to your hand. Now, of course, it's special summons 2 monsters. We can directly go into a link play. Awesome card and definite and good 2-off, of course. Next up, we also run 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This is also an awesome card in this deck, because you can send any number of other cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard, choose that many effect monsters your opponent controls, and until the end of this turn, their attack is halved and also their effects are negated. In response to this card's activation, your opponent cannot activate card effects or the effects of cards with the same original type as the cards sent to the graveyard to activate this card. This card is so good because we can kind of break the board of our opponent here. We want him to keep his monsters, which is why we don't run Raigeki or something like that. But this card negates their effects and halves their attack points, so we really have a good potential to OTK this turn, so definite 3-off. And of course, we also run 2 Lightning Storm, as I mentioned, more for the back row than for the monsters, but also very good card, of course. And finally, we only run 1 trap, and it's actually, which is pretty funny, the second Ancient Gear trap we ever got, which is Ancient Gear Duel. Now, this permanent trap has the following effects. Ancient Gear Golem and monsters that mention it in your monster zone are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects. If your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster that mentions Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck by banishing monsters from your field or graveyard as material, including Ancient Gear Golem you control. And if you do, it can make up to 3 attacks during each battle phase. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Duel once per turn. This card is insane. If we think about our big fusion monsters like Ultimate Golem or something like that, and it can make up to 3 attacks, it's just nuts. Really great card. And guys, that's it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. And the first extra deck monster we talk about is Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Now, this card needs 4 Ancient Gear monsters as a material, must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. It's unaffected by spell and trap effects, and your opponent's monster can't activate their effects during the battle phase, which is great for our OTKs. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, which is also great, especially if you think about a Forbidden Droplet, for example, and if this card attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle damage. So really good card, and definitely one card that can bring us the OTK. Next up, we run 2 copies of Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Now, this card is also our win condition. It has 4,400 attack points, which is amazing. Needs an Ancient Gear Golem and 2 other Ancient Gear monsters. Must be fusion summoned, and if this card attacks a defense position monster, you inflict piercing battle damage. And if it attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of this damage step. And if this card is destroyed, you can target 1 Ancient Gear Golem in your graveyard and special summon it. Also great card, especially with 3 attacks. Next up is Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. Also beautiful card, which needs 3 Ancient Gear monsters, and if it attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. Also, if it was fusion summoned using 2 or more Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound as material, it can attack up to that many times during each battle phase. If this face-up fusion summoned card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. And for the last fusion monster, we also run Ancient Gear Howitzer 1 copy. Only needs 2 Ancient Gear monsters, is unaffected by other card effects, and during your main phase you can inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. You can only use this effect once per turn, and if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Next up is 2 Ancient Gear Ballista. Really awesome Link 2, which needs 2 Earth Machine monsters and has the effect that if it's Link summoned, you can add 1 Ancient Gear monster or Gear Town from your deck to your hand. You can also target 1 spell you control and a face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that card, and if you do, change that opponent's monster's attack and defense to 0 until the end of this turn. So as you can already see, it can also pop one of our spell and traps and bring an opponent's monster down to 0 so we can run over it. Awesome card in this deck. Of course, we also run the Draglubian package, which consists of number 79 Draglubian, number 100 Numeron Dragon, and number 38. Now, this is especially great because, of course, we can push Numeron Dragon for a game, so also could be a good option, and number 38 is also a good spell negate, so can be a decent option if you ask me. Another rank 8 we run is, of course, Dingirsu, the Orcrist of the Evening Star. Also a good going second card, because if a card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can attach a material from this card instead. And if it's special summoned, you can send 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard or attach 1 of your banished machine monsters to this card as material. So it can be great to get rid of maybe a floodgate or another annoying card that prevents you from OTKing right away. Another card we run is 1 Heavy Armored Train Iron Wolf. Now this card is really cool because it requires 2 level 4 machine type monsters, and once per turn you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card and target 1 machine type monster you control, and this turn it can attack your opponent directly and other monsters cannot attack. If we think about our ultimate golem with 3 attacks and it can attack directly, this is a great option. Now there are 2 more cards I do not own at the moment which I would like to run in this deck, which are Springans Merrymaker and Gigantic Champion Zargus. Now these 2 go really great together just to search out your regulars. Definitely good cards to run in this deck also. And finally, you've waited for the 1 synchro monster we run because of Magical Hound, which is Naturia Beast. Now of course Naturia Beast is an endless spell negate. Of course, I know it's not really in the deck's tactic to build up negates. It's definitely a going second OTK deck. But if you ever come into a situation where you know, okay, you can't finish this turn, Naturia Beast is definitely a great card to give your opponent a hard time in their second turn. Guys, that's it for the extra deck. Now, of course, I also want to show you some basic combos with this deck, and we'll start things off with a 1-card combo. Let's just say we're going second, of course, in this deck, so we have 5 cards and our Ancient Gear Wyvern, which will normal summon. It will then search us Ancient Gear Advance, which will activate, which will search us in return Ancient Gear Catapult. Now we use Advance to tribute Wyvern to draw another card. Then we can activate Catapult and shoot Advance to special summon from the deck our Ancient Gear Dark Golem, which will on summon search 2 cards for us, which can be, for example, your Ancient Gear Fusion and your Ancient Gear Box. Ancient Gear Box will then add you a commander, maybe for follow-up. With already this, we have to discard a card. Okay, we can just pick any random card, doesn't really matter at this point. And then we can activate our Fusion. Because we control Ancient Gear Golem, we can use any monster from the deck we want. Doesn't really matter, to go into our Chaos Ancient Gear Golem. And there you have it. With 1 card, you end on a card advantage and Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. So a monster that can attack every monster of your opponent with 4,500 attack. Of course, here you can have some board breakers, droplets, whatever, extenders. So this is just the basic combo you get off 1 card, and it's really, really insane. That's it for combo 1. Let's go on with combo 2. This time we talk about a 2-card combo, so we have 4 random cards and 1 Ancient Gear Tanker and 1 Wyvern. What you're going to do is you're going to normal summon Tanker, activate its effect, and have another special summon from an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, which will be a Wyvern. And from now on, you know the deal. Wyvern will search Advance, we activate Advance will search Catapult. Now we have to get rid of both of our monsters, so we'll use Tanker to get rid of itself and boost all of our Ancient Gear monsters or all of our Ancient Gear golems and cards that mention them for 600 points. Then we use our Advance to get rid of our Wyvern, use Catapult, shoot Advance to bring out Dark Golem. And now this time we won't search Fusion and Box, we'll just search Commander and Ancient Gear Duel. What we can do now, we have to discard a card, which can be our Commander, and then we can activate Commander's effect in the grave, banish it, and activate Ancient Gear Duel straight from our hand. And Ancient Gear Duel will now allow us to fusion summon by banishing monsters from the field or the grave. So of course we banish our Ancient Gear Golem and 2 other Ancient Gear monsters to bring out our ultimate Ancient Gear Golem with 5,000 attack points and 3 attacks. And you still have 4 cards in your hand to break the board or get rid of annoying cards. So you can see the OTK potential is really big in this one. Guys, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed. And if you did, consider leaving a like and a subscription. We're still a new channel and still building up, but yeah, your support means a lot to us. And if you have any suggestions, let us know in the comments. We're always happy to read and answer to your comments, of course. And until next time, have a good one.